love to travel? Do you love to talk about travel? Me too. I got you. Travel is an amazing way to experience new places. Wellness is being physically, mentally, and emotionally healthy. This Sweet Dreams Wellness Travel podcast is all about exploring wellness travel. I'm Barbara Tuckett, your host, and the owner of Sweet Dreams Travel. Part of our emotional and mental health is connection. And I believe that traveling with the intention to connect can bring wellness to your life. In this podcast, I explore traveling for connection with places, with experiences, with those you travel with, and with those you meet, especially connection with yourself. I want your travel to improve your wellness. Hey, I'm so excited because today's episode, I have a couple of really great guests. I have Greg and Kelly Green, and our title of our episode this week is called Sailing Down the Seine with Greg and Kelly. So speaking of the Seine, we're talking about the Seine River, which is in France, and they just got back from an amazing French river cruise. Hi, Greg. Hi, Kelly.
Hello.
So excited to have you here today and to be talking to me. And we're just going to jump right in to your experience and just kind of let people get an idea of what you did and kind of the highlights and everything. Let's start with how many days. So the trip was round trip from Paris. You know, you flew into and home from Paris both ways. And how many days in advance did you get to Paris, and kind of where did you stay and what did you do before the cruise started?
Well, we landed at 7 a.m. the day before we'd be getting on the boat, and which was quite early, too early to actually get into some hotels. But
right.
What we ended up with was able to accommodate at least a little bit of options for us to get ourselves back and prepared to go wandering around. So we stayed in Montmartre, which is kind of a large hill area of Paris, which was quite nice. And we stayed at this Hotel des Arts Montmartre.
Mm-hmm.
Very fantastic place. Very small boutique hotel. Maybe, I'm not sure how many rooms were in there, probably less than 100, but rooms were not necessarily large, but they're very, very nice spaces in here. And this view that you see there is just down in their lounge space on the lower level. But it's very close. This was about 2-3 blocks from the Moulin Rouge and kind of the art area of Paris.
Nice.
Which was,
and those rooms have all been updated. Those pictures, those aren't.
They look a little dated, don't they?
Yeah, that's not even what it looks like now. But yeah.
But the staff there was very fantastic. Was able to take care of everything for us while we were there.
They treated us like family.
Oh.
That's how we felt when we left. That it was really nice.
That's great. So, and did you do quite a bit of sightseeing, and did you do anything before?
We did. It was mostly around that area of Paris, because we knew certain places we're going to go to on the cruise.
Yeah.
So set those aside and wandered around this area. This is quite fantastic because we happened to be there during the World Cup for rugby. So there's a lot of people roaming around and having a good old time in that part of Paris. So.
And they were having a wine festival there too at the same time.
Oh, that's awesome. So you really got there at a good time.
Yes.
There was a little hitch. There was a transportation strike. And so we just thought we're feel fine just sticking around here looking around.
Not going to worry about going far or doing anything crazy.
But fortunately, ahead of time, we had booked a car to pick us up at the airport and then take us to the hotel. The hotel gave us the suggestion of the shuttle for us to take, which worked quite well.
Good. That's great. Okay, so you had fun in Paris for a little bit before, and then you went and boarded the ship the next day. So
we just hopped on an Uber, got to the ship. A little difficult when the information we had was about a mile from where the boat was, but on the GPS it had the right information. I think the address was a little off, but we couldn't drive through, so we had to get them back on the road to get around. Anyway, we got there quite easily. We got there, we dropped off our bags, and then we went back, got an Uber again, and went back out to see some of the city that we did not get to see or we weren't sure we'd get to see originally. So we
Yeah.
went to go visit the Notre Dame Cathedral. Can't get into it right now because of the fire a few years back, but it was very, very fun to get out there to see it. Unfortunately, it also was one of the stops that we had the next day. So
So you got to see it twice.
that's true. So there's some spots that on the Sunday when we did have stops over in Paris, a lot of it was just visiting certain places that were not much more than driving around, but at least you could see those things. So if you're going to go, it's probably good to understand which ones you're going to stop at so you can go visit the other places that you really want to get to.
Well, there was some bomb threats, and so they closed the Louvre, and there's some places we were thinking about going, and those were all closed because of that.
Because
So
yeah,
Just be flexible.
yeah, we were flexible, eyes wide open. We were enjoying every minute. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you saw what you got to see and just had fun doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's great. So you were on board, and what kind of cabin did you have?
We had the second level, which had I guess you'd call it a French balcony.
The French balcony. Yeah.
Which was quite nice. And
It was lovely.
it was great. Looking at the rooms down below, probably you got a smaller window, you get a good view, I'm sure, but up a little bit higher is quite nice.
It was
Really nice to be able to open that sliding glass door and just have the whole the sights and the sounds as you go by, right?
Yeah, and we sat there a few times just filling out some postcards, which the boat actually mailed those for us for free, which was quite amazing.
Yeah.
Took a while to get.
Isn't that fun? Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that's such a fun thing that Ama Waterways does that none of the other cruise lines do, that they have all these free postcards and you can just pick and choose which ones you want and you fill them out right there and you leave them with them at their little front desk and they mail them for you.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that's a great little perk.
And what I didn't expect is when we dropped off our bags, they invited us on and had little tea sandwiches and salad and drinks for us and got that all nice. And then we went on our way to play.
Oh, that's fun.
So that was really a nice treat.
Yeah, a fun little unexpected welcome to get you on board. Oh, that's good. So you slept overnight on the ship that first night and it stayed right there in Paris. And so then the next day,
Well, what was the best part is the first night the captain goes, I got a special treat for you. So he didn't really describe it, but from where they were parked on the shore, which is probably 3 or 4 miles from the Eiffel Tower, we cruised closer to the Eiffel Tower as they had the light show at nighttime.
Oh, I love it.
And then we had a French singer, vocalist that was singing some of unfortunately I cannot remember the name of the artist from back 20s that she was singing the songs from. So
everybody was on top of the boat looking at the lights. She's singing in the background and then they're serving us
apple brandy.
Yeah. So that was
so great. So fun. Then you got to see some other sights in Paris that next day, right?
Yes, we did.
And then after that, were there any big highlights from there, or was it mostly just kind of seeing a bunch of different things in the city?
Just a bunch of places to see. Seemed like most of the people had arrived and were there for a few days, so they'd seen these spots already. So
yeah,
it was good for us because we still had our opportunity to get over to the Eiffel Tower and get our picture, and which was what we had to be there. That was the thing you have to do.
Exactly. You got to do that. Can't miss that. All right. And then from Paris, you just kind of proceeded down the river. What do you want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about food? Do you want to talk about some of the shore excursions? What?
Well, let's start with the food.
Okay.
Every night they had
a chef's table.
Well, they had a chef's table, but they had chef's recommendations.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Full courses of all the dinner, but you could also choose other choices if you preferred not to have any of those. So they're all very good. Sometimes they might seem more richer than what you might be used to eating, but never really had a problem with any of them. But if you felt like you didn't want to eat certain things, you could find something on the menu to have. So it was always quite fantastic to have that. They served the breakfast in the dining area as well as in the lounge. We just mostly went to the lounge to just get a smaller portion just so we could get stay in bed longer.
Right.
Some
Right.
cases, because it was a full day and
Yeah.
in many of these trips. So, but then when we were on the ship, they did have lunch there too, which again, there was kind of a chef's suggestion on there and other choices. I think at 10 o'clock at night, they had some small hors d'oeuvres that they served too, and they had a happy hour, which I think some of those times in there, they served little tea sandwiches.
Mhm.
Food was always there. It wasn't like your normal cruise boats where you've got the buffet. It's basically a full service. They serve you at your table. They have options on wine if you prefer to have any. So it was always something different. Chef's table was a different menu and something you certainly want to sign up for when you are on the ship at some point in time. You can find your friends either while you're on that boat or something. It'd be good to sit there with them. Unfortunately, we ended up that happened to us. We had met the couple we were sat down, had dinner with that particular night, which was quite a lot of fun. So you will find people you wouldn't expect to make friends with pretty quickly there because you're all in it together.
Even if you don't go with friends, you make friends pretty fast, right?
Yes, you do.
Yes.
Yeah, which is really fun.
Oh,
One thing
so-
I love about the food, I don't know, see if you guys think the same, but I love how the food is very regionally inspired, like local foods and local flavors and stuff. So
Mhm.
I think that's amazing. Like it's not just American fare the whole way. It really is. If you're on a French cruise, you're going to have the French.
Mhm.
Plus you get your options of different cheeses every
Yeah.
meal, which was always pretty good for a lot of people here just going after it. And it was always some good choices.
And the pastries, I know,
On the
pastries.
boat were pretty good, but for us, we like the pastries from the shops.
Yeah, off the boat, the actual, the ones you got to go have locally. Yep, those are amazing.
We had to find the baguettes we can carry it around in the sleeve, just like everybody else does.
Exactly. Okay, so food was good. Was there anything in particular that you really loved? Did you have a favorite meal or a favorite food? Just the cheeses or just the
I
variety?
think just being able to sit down with some other people and just have discussions and talk and
enjoy
and
Yeah.
make some friends.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, okay. And then what about excursions? Let's talk about that a little bit. So, we're not going to go like day by day, everything that you did every single day, but tell me about some of the good excursions that you did, some of the fun things.
You want to go first?
No, go ahead.
Well, one of the things is this trip involves lots of cathedrals, churches, abbeys, monasteries. They're very fantastic. They're all 1,000-year-old for most of these, medieval.
So much history.
And the guides they had were very good. They're all licensed by France, so that they can give all the information on each of these buildings you go to. Being an architect is really a fun thing to hear all that.
Oh, that is fun.
And especially going into a lot of these things that I've learned many, many years ago and totally forgot much of this information. But you're dealing with the Romanesque and the Gothic style of the architecture in most of these places, and because of the time frame that they took to build them, the different types of the architecture kind of started to mesh together because it evolved from one to another because of over the hundreds of years it took to build these places. But it was very good. The best part was probably in Rouen, which had that was in Bayou, but in Rouen they had the Great Clock, and that's maybe one of the pictures we can send you one of that's there. But it's very close to the Joan of Arc church that's there, which happens to be the area where Joan of Arc was burned at the stake, and they told the stories of what she was and what she did for the country and everything that was involved with that. So it was a very fun place to go to, and even we did go into the cathedral that was there, which was also a Notre Dame cathedral. But that's a picture of the Great Clock there, and it happens to be on what used to be the rampart wall that wrapped around the city, and it evolved into other buildings being built right into the face of it. So everywhere you went, there was a guide that was telling you all the information about the places that you're you're walking through. And, this happens to be on a Sunday when we're there. So there's a mass that was going to start happening. So we just kind of maneuvered to another portion of the cathedral to continue on with the tour of the place.
Yeah.
So, on the ship itself, like every day you're going to all these different places. Even Monet's garden was fantastic to see. It was obviously at the end of the season, but still a lot of flowers blooming there, and it's quite interesting. Even this time of year, being in France, it was much warmer than it is here in the central United States.
Interesting. Your weather was nice when you
were. It was in the 60s pretty much every day. It got down a little cool sometimes at night, but the weather was very good. And they're much further north than we are in either Kansas City or Utah, but they're still a lot more mild. They have, they grow vegetables year round in that part of France, in Normandy and Brittany. So we spent a lot of time trying to find specific types of pastries, like the quenimans,
right.
like we were expecting to find everywhere. We didn't find them until we got to the final location in Brittany in St. Malo, when we finally found them, and they're just as fantastic as they were made in Les Madeleines there.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. That's so great. And Kelly, what were your shore excursion highlights? Anything to add?
Monet's house, the gardens. I enjoyed that a lot. There was a lot. I mean, every time we would go see another cathedral, I was like, and then you go inside and just see how beautiful it was. and I, like, okay, this is really cool. And it was awesome to really have those tour guides, the history. And I was, things that you probably studied in college or in high school that just went over my head was like making a lot of sense. Just being.
Yeah.
Oh, you were starting to mention the tapestry that we saw on Bayou. And that was about the tapestries on William the Conqueror, because it was telling the history, the story of his conquest, I guess, and how he became, I think he was a king there in France, one of the first ones. They had that displayed nicely, and it was, I think it was maybe about 200 foot long, but it was all hand embroidered, and it was saved for all these millennium to keep it safe. And many times it was nearly lost, but it's interesting to see that kind of history still available out there.
And how old it is. Like, wasn't it like the year 1000 or something, like 1100 or something like that? It was
somewhere in that timeline. Yeah, it was when it was made. So it was amazing just to see that kind of artwork. And it was, as you go through it, you had the headset that would describe each of the scenes that were in there. So it's kind of fun
you really got a background of what you were looking at and kind of what you were experiencing. Yeah.
Right.
That's so fun. And what about the beaches of Normandy? What did you do that day?
Well, we went to Honfleur on the Havre that was pretty much bombed out during World War II. That sounded like about 80% of the city. So it was all rebuilt in reinforced concrete, which was quite amazing for some of these structures. It looked very, very plain, but when you went into the church there, with the Church of St. Joseph Church, fantastic. On the outside, it looked pretty plain and normal, but you go inside, it was amazing. So we went to go see some other areas. Honfleur was kind of a small port area, I guess they'd call it. Had a marina in there, a very old city, very fantastic to walk around that area too. But a lot of art shops around, a lot of small businesses in the shops, and they're kind of fun to go to see all these things, because we don't see these options around here.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Let's just touch on a little bit. Was there anything else you wanted to say about the excursions, or was anything else that you wanted to add?
I think the best part is just sitting down and meeting with friends. They did have different events every night. Sometimes it was just the same piano player, but they'd bring in local artists. They had one group of artists that just played, I think they had the violins and the guitar. And then they actually, at the end, they handed out little, what they called a ticket, so you could sign on and hear their music online, which was quite nice. And not every night did they have a special event, but it was always good to have these. Even the captain came out to sing a song, a couple different.
Oh, that's great. So the entertainment was fun and varied, and just I
Yeah,
like how the entertainment is just kind of local too. Like they bring local
it is.
artists on and just performers and things. I think that's amazing that they can support just the local communities, you know.
Yep.
Right.
I think that's great. So, okay. So we're gonna talk about what you did after the cruise, but I don't want to miss anything from the cruise. Did we pretty much cover everything?
I think so. There's every day. It's fun to have these things scheduled, so you don't have to go find these yourself. That's one reason why I chose this type of a cruise, because I don't want to try to figure out once they park the boat somewhere that I got to go find my own thing to go do. And so they had guides with us always, which was kept us corralled. It's like herding cats sometimes, I know, but
And they gave us free time too. They go, okay, you're on your own for so many hours or 2 hours or something. So
Right. So you could go shopping, or you could wander around, or whatever you wanted to see.
mostly chocolate and
That's
pastries.
right. Go find some more chocolate and pastries.
Yes,
See what's local to that area.
right.
Yeah, all the things. So yeah, that's great. And another thing I love about these Ama Waterways cruises is that every evening, did you like how your cruise director would give you the overview of what was going on the next day and kind of talk you through the different excursions and, oh, you can do this or you can do this and all of that?
Yeah, it was very helpful. Even hearing about the ones we weren't going to go do, so we'd sit there and go, should we change?
Should we switch? And you could have switched if you had
Yeah,
wanted to. You could switch even
yeah.
at the last minute. You could switch anytime.
there was one that we couldn't do, and it was limited. It was only one. It was a tasting
Oh,
The
okay.
and the cheese, and everybody wanted to do that. So that was the only thing
So they had
that
to cut it off, and you didn't make it. Oh
Yeah.
well, you just went and found your own cheeses and
That's true.
chocolate pastries. I'm kind of excited to also talk about after the cruise. With the cruise, they offered a pre-cruise if you wanted to do with the cruise director and everything pre-cruise, which you just did on your own. But then they also offered a post-cruise little extension, and that's the one that you did. And so your same cruise director went with you, and you went over to a place called St. Malo. So do you want to tell us like about that post-cruise, kind of what that was all about?
Sure. And of course, part of it was obviously you have to get on a bus, but it wasn't just a bus straight from the port to St. Malo. There was actually a stop at a castle in there. I'm trying to pull up the name right now. Chateau Fougrace, possibly.
Okay.
And it was a fantastic old medieval castle. Part of it is, it still has a very good rampart wall that wraps around the whole city. It's all up, pretty much the entire city is on a slope there. So unfortunately, it happened to be raining that day, so we didn't spend a lot of time wandering around the castle because it was mostly outside, but you could get in to see parts of the castle and couldn't find the dungeons where the dragons were or anything. So, but I tried. But you could go up to different places in here and have some good views out across the city and across the river that was in that area. So that was just a stopover for about, I think we're there a couple hours, 2 or 3 hours, and then got back on the bus and ended up in St. Malo probably 5 o'clock at night, I think. And so we drop off our luggage, go wandering around, and then go, okay, we're really hungry.
yeah.
So we're wandering around. It's kind of like, okay, I'm just going to go down the list, because they gave us, actually, when we were on the ship, they gave us a list of preferred restaurants. We ended up going to one on the list, which is quite fantastic, because it was on the west side of the city. It's right up on top of the rampart wall, and you could oversee the beach down below. It was a creperie that we went to, and it was still raining a little bit on us there, but it was beautiful just sitting there. I couldn't see the sunset at that time because of the rain, but just looking out across the ocean there and the small little islands out in the area there was
breathtaking.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah,
so
great food and a great view. That's
Yeah,
But
that's perfect.
we stayed at a nice hotel. It was kind of in the middle of the walled city. So, we spent most of the time within the walled area, other than when we were taking a trip off to some other locations outside with the rest of the tour. But anyway, Creperie was great. And if, we'll send you information on the name of this place.
Yeah.
But,
Anything you can send me, that'd be fantastic.
But it was fun to go to. And then let's see, trying to remember what else did we do there? Oh, then the next night after we came back from the tours that we had, we went back and sat down on the beach and did watch the sunset from that area, because it was.
I would recommend that highly. Just
you got to go. You want to go at low tide, more or less, because the high tide will bring the tide pretty much all the way up to the wall of that area, and they do get some pretty high tides at some times, which they showed us pictures of. But the low tide is the time to go there. You can watch everybody running back and forth across the beach. I mean, it's 65 degrees, and they think it's still summertime.
That's amazing.
Wouldn't be doing that around here, but
right.
They're used to that. So the second day we were there, we visited the close cities nearby. One, Dinard, and the other, Dinan. Dinan had a basilica we went to go see there, and I think that's where we found some of the Quinamons also.
Yeah.
So it took a tour of certain areas in the city and through the church that was there. And then Dinard was kind of a beach area, very, very impressive villas, mansions, I guess you might even want to call them, right along the shoreline there. So when I win my lottery, that's where I'm going to go live. It overlooks St. Malo.
Yeah.
It's across the bay, essentially. It's a very nice area. And so then we also then went to go to the Mont St. Michael's Abbey, which was that's the one in the island out in the middle of basically
that beautiful picture that you always see this on the island with the Abbey on it. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and it's really interesting. Everything's just built on this big pyramid or cone-shaped rock, essentially. And it has the Abbey at the very top. A lot of the houses and businesses from hundreds and hundreds of years ago were then built kind of winding around the side of the mountain on its way down. They indicated there's somewhere in the range about 350 steps to get from the bottom of the Abbey to the top, but that's before you had a long slope to get there, which to me it wasn't very bad. It wasn't bad at all. The director or the guide kind of took it slow. If you tried to move across pretty fast, it might seem difficult, but we didn't find it difficult at all. Almost seems harder climbing up a series about 3 or 4 flights of stairs than it did climbing up through this area, because you got such a wonderful view as you look out across. Sometimes it's just across the rooftops.
Beautiful. That's fun. So great. I just found hang on, I'm going to share, see if I can figure out how to share. I just found a picture of Mont Saint Michel.
Yeah.
Is that what it looked like when you were there?
Yes. It was quite a busy place, but this time of year was pretty much, they'd call it their off season, because they were talking about, I think they had times 30 or 40,000 a day going to here. It was almost like a pilgrimage for many in the Catholic faith, I think, that would go to this place. But for us, it's just an amazing piece of architecture just to see this.
While we were in there, they were showing us where the monks would eat, and that there was this little room, and that was the only place where the monk could talk and read. And at that point, there was a guide with his group, and he brought out his book and starts chanting.
Yeah.
And it was just amazing. We weren't expecting that. We didn't know that was going to happen. One part of our group, but just to be there when that was happening. and the echo, the vibrations. It
Yeah.
was just really awesome.
Wow. Yeah, that's fun. So fun. And so then after the St. Malo area, then you just went back for one final night in Paris, right? Before
Right.
flying home.
So we had dinner with friends that we met on the
Well,
ship there.
still at St. Malo.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
just, there was a restaurant we went that last night, and it was fabulous. So we recommend it highly.
It was the Hotel Chateaubriand, and the Chateaubriand is a special cut of steak. So of course we have one of those too while we're there. So
Was it as
which
good as you thought it would be?
it was. Can't say I've ever heard about it before, but it was mentioned by one of the guides. So I think we got to go try this. So it was
It was a fabulous,
really good.
yeah.
But as we were sitting there, they came to us after we're done with our dinner, and they go, "You want dessert?" And he basically says, "You want dessert." So he's made a suggestion for what was that one now? The crepe Suzette.
Yes.
Oh.
They then prepared that right next to the table with their skillets and burners and
Yeah, flaming.
it
It was a great show.
was a great presentation. So
Yeah.
certainly something that we don't see very often in many of the places that we go to, that's for sure. But it was a good presentation.
So fun. So fun. And then, so once you got back to Paris the next day for your final day, did you do anything that last day, or was it mostly just come back and a
Well,
place and then leave?
we had on the bus ride back, it stopped at the Chartreux
Okay.
Cathedral.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's something else. I mean, even though we saw all these different cathedrals, the stained glass and everything in there, everything's telling a story, because there was a time when people didn't know how to read. They weren't taught to read because, whatever reason that ever was. But the stained glass and the friezes and everything that's inside these buildings will tell you the story of what they're documenting as the Catholic faith and religion and history. Yeah, the Chartreux Cathedral was certainly something to see if you ever get a chance. I mean, it's the ultimate Gothic style cathedral and fantastic there. It's going under some renovation, but the stained glass in there, it's almost like a diorama type frieze. It's just above eye level as you wrap around the back of the sanctuary. That's also in there that tells the full history of the Bible and everything. So very fantastic to see all that, and especially as it's going through its many years of renovation. I think they said they've been at it for 20 years. And they only expect
Really?
not anyway. So it's got lots
Just
more
to
to go.
clean.
Yeah, it's mostly just cleaning, and they are trying to introduce some of the colors back into the building that was originally there then too.
Oh, okay.
So that was a stop, which was great to see to have that. Hop back on the bus. They take us right into the hotel, which is just right at the airport. Very
nice hotel.
very nice place. I wasn't there long enough to do much, but it's right next to the train station. Actually, the train that just goes straight into the airport. It only goes back and forth in this area, I think, in the airport. So it was, the guide then showed us how to get on the train, make sure depending on which concourse that you're going to. Then, of course, you're on your own once you get to the airport. So it's always a lot of fun trying to figure out how to get around.
Right. You know,
Everybody,
for an airport and figure out where to go and the gates and everything.
right. So it's all manageable. It is, it was exciting to go do all this.
Yeah. So fun. So fun. I'm so glad that you got to do this.
We are too.
Yeah. That's so great. Any, now that we've kind of wrapped up your experience, are there any last minute or end of wrapping up takeaways or any advice that you would give anybody if they were doing it? What would you tell them to do?
Well, it's certainly not for kids. Doesn't seem like it. Not to say that they couldn't do it. I'm not sure they'd be into it quite as much. So I think that's the biggest thing. For some reason, many people seem to think Kelly and I were just got married or something.
It was funny It's like, one time there's like, okay. And then it was funny.
Yeah, so
They kept
only
thinking
been
you were newlyweds.
only been 40 years.
40
so
years.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah. And the boat, the people on the boat that work there, I would take one day I went and got a little spoon because I take a little protein drink in the morning. And so I thought I'll just fix it in my room. Well, every day after that, she had a clean spoon and a clean cup for me.
Oh,
As it needed, but that's how observant they are.
Yeah.
Every you need that.
yeah.
And the one big takeaway is when they say, well, I overpacked clothes, number one, but medicines just over the counter, some reason, and when you're on that river, they can't sell you any medication. So if you need any aspirin or anything over the counter,
Tylenol or just
Yeah.
like
so
regular.
just a couple. That's the only
Yeah.
thing I would recommend because you're out of luck if you needed anything.
And that is very good advice because a lot of times we think, oh, I'm traveling. I can just stop by a drugstore and get, whatever, if I have a headache or whatever. But in this case, that's not the case. So
I brought Band-Aids.
Yeah.
I didn't think about some of those other things.
Right. That is great advice for everybody. If you're heading on an experience like this, make sure you bring anything, even over the counter, something simple that you aren't sure if you can get. Make sure you bring it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, thank you so much. This has been so fun to get to live vicariously through your river cruise experience.
Thanks for all your help on it.
Yes.
I'm glad we did it.
Yeah, we didn't want to wait another year.
Right.
Everything else that was going on, but it was quite interesting. Even when the Rugby World Cup was going on there, I'm seeing the little rugby ball sitting in the corner of the hotel. I go, is there a special game going on? He goes, oh, it's the World Cup. It's going, wow. Tells you how much we pay to certain sports.
The rugby, exactly. But yeah, the World Cup, that's pretty fun.
Fortunately, it's a big thing. It was fun to watch. I didn't actually watch the final game, so it was a very close one there too.
That's great. That's so fun. So fun that you got to have all of these amazing experiences. And thank you so much for being willing to share and talk about your amazing river cruise. It's been so great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Fun to talk to you, and I'm glad you could get this all set up for us.
Yes, you are certainly welcome. It's been such a pleasure.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. So one reason I really wanted to talk to Greg and Kelly today is because they did the exact same cruise, only opposite, backwards, from the cruise that we are going on next October. So if this sounded fun to you and like something that you would maybe be interested in looking more at or checking out or maybe going, contact me and let me know, and I can get you more details. So we are doing the exact same river cruise. It's the Impressions of the Seine and Paris. And although we're doing it backwards, starting October 19th of 2024. And we're flying into Paris, but then we're starting at the end at the Normandy beaches where they ended. Or if you wanted to do the pre-cruise, you could do the St. Malo at the beginning, that they talked about doing the post-cruise. So that would be before the cruise, and then you'd get to do the cruise and end up in Paris. So we're doing the backwards version of that cruise. So fun to get to talk to Greg and Kelly and get to hear how much fun they had. I loved it, and hopefully you enjoyed it too. We will talk to you in a couple of weeks for our next episode. Thanks. If you've enjoyed this podcast, I would invite you to like, share, or leave a review. Let's help grow our wellness travel community.